Hello students, welcome to the IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about whether NATO is in a crisis mode, especially after arm twisting that we are seeing being done by the President of US Donald Trump. And if NATO is indeed in crisis mode, what are the possible implications for India? So first of all, to give you the brief background of this particular issue, we know that very recently the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, has met with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the most powerful security grouping we can talk about in the world itself as of now is NATO. Now, during the meeting, Secretary General Mark Rutte has given a statement which seemed to be very different from what line European Union or NATO has taken few weeks or few months back. For example, he has said that as far as the membership for Ukraine in NATO is considered, it is currently off the table, and that is very contrasting and completely opposite to what Europeans have been willing to state so far. Trump, on the other hand, also have threatened the expansion of NATO. I have actually said that it is the threatened expansion of NATO to the Russia's very border that is behind the debilitating war. To some extent, this is a very radical and completely different approach or line that Trump is talking about as compared to the previous administration of the United States. This, to some extent, we can say is even a point that has been we can say that has been taken from the Vladimir Putin's statement. So Putin obviously have always stated that it is because of the threat of NATO's expansion to Russia's border, that is why Russia has waged a war, and now same thing is being repeated by the Donald Trump. So he seems to be working more for the Russian interest rather than the American or NATO's interest. Now we talk about NATO before moving further. We know that NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also referred as a transatlantic organization. Transatlantic because most of the member of NATO belongs to the Northwestern Europe and then the United States, Canada and all. So both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, North Atlantic Ocean. So the North Atlantic Alliance, it is an intergovernmental transnational military alliance. Currently it has total 32 members, where 30 countries are from the European region and European continent, while 2 are the North American countries, as we discussed, US, Canada. Now, what is the message that we should take from the recent meeting between Mark Rutte and President Donald Trump? The point is that the meeting does not only talk about the Ukraine, or does not give us only an idea about the viewpoint of the countries on Ukraine. Rather, the rest of NATO is also collectively getting the arm twisted by the current administration of the United States. And this, to some extent, many experts have argued correctly, is jeopardizing the transatlantic amity that underpins the synthesis and functioning of NATO that has lasted since almost 1945-1950s. And this churning has implications for everyone, obviously in the region of European continent, but also for India as well. So first of all, if you take a look at the Ukraine war, now obviously we talk about Mark Rutte, he has taken a much more conciliatory approach when he met with the President Trump and they gave a joint press briefer as compared to the statement that we have seen coming from the NATO earlier. And he, for example, we can see a difference here because now he has praised the US President Donald Trump because of his actions, even what he did in his last administration, as well as his wisdom in pushing for an end to the Ukraine war. Because to give you a background, President Trump, since the very beginning of taking office of presidency, has talked about that how his prime focus and goal will be to bring a conclusive end to the Russia-Ukraine war. He has pushed for immediate ceasefire, which was again a region behind what you can see as a war of words that erupted in White House between President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump. So this is something, this what you can call as the appreciation and acceptance of Trump's diplomacy as a legitimate one by NATO chiefs, NATO Secretary General, is something that is a quite shift in the thinking of the European Union as well as NATO. For example, earlier, European Union and NATO has continuously backed Ukraine's sovereignty and has talked about punishing of Russia, but now they are largely also agreeing to the Trump's proposal of bringing end and talking about ceasefire. Now, what can be the rationale behind it? The rationale behind is very simple, because almost for last 70 years, European Union collectively has enjoyed a protective umbrella against the Russian expansionism, because they had firm belief that if push comes to shove, United States will come and help them. United States being one of the most, what you can call as not only one of the most, but most we can call as the strongest military superpower of the current world, is what have given a kind of peace to the member countries of the NATO and European Union. But now they understand that Trump has continuously threatened that in many situations, if the European Union countries do not adhere to the funding guidelines, he will not provide any kind of support to them. He even have publicly said that recently he is talking about bringing an icebreaker. So these icebreaker ships will not be made available to the Canada unless and until they pay for it. So all these is something that have what you can call as rattled some nerves in the European Union, and they also understand that Russia is a nuclear power with a humongous arsenal of over more 1,000 nuclear warhead, and thus fighting such a power needs a nuclear guarantee of sufficient proportion. And this guarantee cannot be provided by any of the European countries, even the nuclear capable ones such as United Kingdom and France. And also we talk about even at no point, even though the France is a nuclear power country, at no point in time it has agreed to provide a security guarantee to the Europe. We talk about United Kingdom, it already is being tied by the elect United States, especially after the 1958 agreement that UK and US has signed. As per this agreement, it is the responsibility of United States to design, manufacture and maintain the nuclear arsenal of UK. So we can say effectively or practically it is the US which has indirect control and even direct control on the British nuclear arsenal. So that's pretty much that where Ukraine is concerned. And anyway, NATO member countries understand that it is very, very difficult and it is hardly unlikely that Ukraine will get back all its lost territory. And that is why now they have begun to talk in a more practical manner as such. Now, talk about the nuclear arsenal. I told you currently, as per the report, Russia has a total nuclear warhead of 5,580, and then the only comparable warhead you have with the United States, that is 5,225. If you look at the other countries such as UK, France, they have a warhead of somewhere between 300, 200 to 300 numbers, which is very, very minuscule in nature. If you take a look at the nuclear warhead of India, Pakistan, that also stands at very minuscule at 172, 170. The only other significant country with nuclear arsenal seems to be China, which has reportedly a warhead of 600 in number. So that is how we can understand the extreme reliance European Union have on the United States. Now, other issue between US and NATO is also on the matter of funding. For example, Europe has currently, European Union talk about, as stated by the Secretary General of NATO, it has decided to put in $800 billion in extra defense spending. And this also seems to be largely a result of the Trump's strong arm tactics, where Trump has said that it will calibrate the American involvement in NATO and it will not support and help any country which is spending less than 2% on the defense budget. Germany, taking cognizance of the situation, also has decided to add $536 billion more, and this will also need a constitutional change to increase defense and infrastructure spending. UK has taken cognizance. 2.5% GDP is something that now it has accepted. It will spend with a fiscal stimulus on the defense. And France, another major NATO partner, it has decided to increase its defense spending from 2.1% to 3% of GDP, despite a large fiscal deficit that the country is running. So this is something that was a common talking point of the all American administration, but largely amplified in the or under the Trump's administration, is where he has said that all the countries should stick to the defense budget as proposed under the NATO charter, NATO agreement. And if you take a look at the European Union, most of countries are spending somewhere between less than 2% to 3% and above. The biggest spender, if we talk about as per the GDP ratio, is Poland, Estonia, Latvia and Greece, that spend more than 3% of their national GDP. Then you have countries such as France, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and then other countries accordingly you can see on the map here. Also, this seems to be a win for Trump, the sudden massive inflow of fund as defense spending by all these countries, because again Trump has been able to settle the decades-long argument on the European spending on defense. This first of all began to come into discussion during the presidency of George W. Bush, who repeatedly has expressed his frustration that the Europe is reluctant to step up, but without much effect. And that is because the earlier administration was more liberal, more understanding, and was not putting that much pressure. But that has changed after coming of Trump. Now it seems another win for the ebullient US president, where the European Union countries have begun and started to heed to what he is asking. The other area of contention which seems to be taking place now between US and European Union or US and NATO is about the Greenland project. In the recent meeting again, NATO chief, when he met with the President Trump, Trump has clearly stated that he might need the support and help of NATO to annex Greenland for sake of international security in the Arctic. Obviously, Mark Rutte was able to courageously avoid falling into this trap, where he has clearly stated that he did not see the need of organization stepping up or getting involved in the dangers of annexation. However, he also talked about the need for the icebreaker shift, because he has talked about the threat the Arctic region is facing from both Russia and China. In this response, Trump has said that he is ordering 48 icebreaker ships to increase the American presence in the Arctic region. Not only that, the other problem that the countries might face, or where the tussle might arise, is how Arctic region is being dealt by United States, because Arctic, we know, it is one of the most environmentally sensitive area in the world, and due to global warming, the ice of Arctic is melting at a very fast rate that has opened up a water route or sea route around it, which is being taken advantage of both in Russia as well as China. So in this case, US also want to increase its pressure, and Trump has clearly stated his goal that he intend to drill for the minerals, oil reserves, gas reserves in the Arctic, and also he want to station more and more troops in the Arctic region in the past. And it is in this context of his foreign policy, he is trying to justify taking Greenland away from Denmark, as it gives United States much more closer access, or we can say much more closer vicinity to the Arctic region. Now, as far as the impact on India is concerned, obviously, if NATO becomes weak due to the differences and the fractionation of the membership of the organization, it is not good for India, especially in the situation where many of India's neighbors are exhibiting expansionist ambition, obviously pointing to the China. So any rift is likely to encourage more tentative probing. And obviously, we talk about US, India, and European Union relationship. Europe, after having what you can call as a weak relationship with the United States, or suffering from what you can call as the American less policy, in that case, we look to India for defense sales and greater cooperation. However, China still remains Europe's third largest trading partner, and this is something that will create a dilemma for the Indian foreign policy as well. Now, obviously, if we talk about US definitely, certainly China's top trading partner, and many times Trump has called President Xi as his friend as well. But if you look at US-China relationship, we have to understand that no matter which president come in the United States, the US-China rivalry is going to continue. US will never allow China to take a center stage at the global scale, both either on the economic front or in the military security front. So between the European Union and US, you talk about, India can bet more on the US as far as its interest in Asia is concerned. And when it comes to the regional bullies, it seems that the hammer will count. That means who will have a much stronger impact on the policies of China, for example. And it seems that currently Trump is the only one, or Trump has no shortage of a heavy hammer, and that is where India can rely on the US administration even under the President Trump. So that is all about this particular issue. I hope you got the idea behind what is dividing the NATO organization, which has enjoyed a cohesiveness since last 70 years, and how this all can impact the interest of India as well. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you.